So hi, my name is Serish. I work in a newspaper. I recently wrote a book on Hyderabad about Qutub Shahi period history. It's called Golconda Bagnagar Hyderabad. And I've been asked by Vivek to speak something on an appraisal of Asaf Jahi's. So I thought I will see Asaf Jahi's contribution to Hyderabad in terms of preserving and protecting the Qutub Shahi legacy. Because the Qutub Shahi dynasty, when it was extinguished, the Mughals took power. And for a brief period of time, say between 1724 and 1763, Hyderabad was not the power center for the region. Hyderabad was not the capital. So when a city which is a capital ceases to be a capital, it loses a lot of its value in terms of economic power, as well as the other social and cultural values. Like for example, a Golconda fort is important only if it is near the capital of Hyderabad. It is no longer, it's a faraway fort, and it will be of limited use if it's not a capital. So I tried to divide this, whatever I'm planning to speak, into three parts. One part is the beginning, and second part is about the documentation that was involved, and third part is about how the Asaf Jahi actually helped finance preserving the Qutub Shahi heritage. So in the first part I would like to speak about how the capital was shifted at the behest of a person called Ruknuddaulah, who was the Prime Minister of Nizam Ali Khan. He was assassinated, and he's buried in the foothills of Maula Ali Dargah. So if you want to see his contribution, one of the things that he did for Hyderabad was creating the map which is now on the verge of destruction at Idare-Urdu. Idare Urdu, which is there, what Zor Saab started. The map is still there, but it's in a very bad condition. That was one of the first maps, and maps are key to our understanding of history and how to preserve them. So after Nizam Ali Khan shifted the capital to Hyderabad, the city started developing, the royal complex started developing around the Chowmala Palace, which was initially built by Salahuddin Jahi, and that formed the core of Hyderabad, around which the nobility and others got drawn to the city. We have to understand how these things are happening. The Nizam came to power at a time when the Deccan region was in a state of flux, it was a state of war, and we don't understand the kind of complex fights that were involved in this region, because the Nizam actually didn't win all the battles. He won the 1720 battle, he won the 1724 battle, he lost 1727 battle, he lost 1737 battle near Bhopal, and he again lost another battle in 1747. So it says the Nizam is not ruling a stable kingdom. He is ruling over a time when the whole kingdom is in a flux. The Marathas would send their raiders to the city. They would raid the city, and it was such a complex time that even a small, ordinary toddy tapper called Sarve Papudu held the Nizam rule to ransom. Before the capital was shifted to Hyderabad, around 1777, Sarve Papudu, who controlled the highway near Warangal and all that, actually was one of the key factors in harming the way the Golconda kingdom functioned. Because this man was a brigand, and he was taking away the authority of the Mughal rule. And in this period of time, the Nizam suddenly started changing around 1860 and all that time, when the first effort was made to preserve and document the heritage of Qutub Shahis, and that was the antiquarian remains of the Deccan. and lot of these sites were documented, and their value was evaluated. They were classified according to the terms of importance, and the whole list was created. And when this list was being created by somebody called Henry Cousins, it was financed by the Nizam's government. They gave the money to help this man travel along with Mr. Burgess, who is part of the Bombay Presidency Archaeology Department, and they traveled through this region to catalog the sites in this place. And this documentation didn't happen in isolation. They were helping change the way these sites were evaluated. Like for example, one of the initial efforts to preserve the Ajanta-Ellora cave sites, which was a Jahi of the Salajan, they built a wall around it. Some portions of the wall are still there, so that actually it was in a very bad condition, the Ajanta and Ellora caves. So Salajan was the initial effort to build a wall around it, and later, after Mr. Ghulam Yazdani came, that was a different thing, of course. So I'll talk about how this this led to another effort called the Descriptive Sketch of the Highness Nizam's Dominion, which again documented the heritage of Hyderabad without money, images and all those things. And these were the initial efforts to document and help preserve. The real change began in 1914 when Mr. Ghulam Yazdani came to Hyderabad, and the reports he created for the Nizam's Dominion are an example of transparency, and they document how even the smallest expense of a salary of 2 rupees to the guard of Ramappa temple is documented, and how he preserved these sites was, some of these sites were actually not in use. Like even now, if you go to our Toli Masjid, which is there, if you climb the upper floor, there is graffiti from 1770, 1880, 1890, there is a graffiti. But it was Mr. Ghulam Yazdani who laid a motorable road to Toli Masjid, and now it is being used by encroachers to grab all the property around it. And when Mr. Yazdani visited the Ramappa temple, he again got a motorable road laid. And if you walk in the Ramappa temple complex, you will find Murum. That Murum dates back to the time when Mr. Yazdani got involved with this thing. And if you enter the temple from the northern side, there are 2 brackets of dancing girls. Those were removed and they were on the process of being carted away in a vehicle, in a bullock cart. Mr. Yazdani stopped that and got them reinstalled. If we can see them now and why these sites, this site is now a World Heritage Site, a large contribution of that goes to Mr. Ghulam Yazdani, because he actually understood the importance of heritage, and he was really trained. He was a serious scholar. His scholarship comes across when he, if you see his role in editing the Epigraphia Indica between 1914 and 1940. This was a very good documentation of all the epigraphs that are there in the Deccan region. And these included not just Persian and Urdu, they included even the Telugu styles. Like for example, if you go to Koilkonda Fort, on the one of the first steps is a Persian and Telugu document of the people signing an agreement to let Ibrahim Qutub Shah become the ruler of Golconda. Why they want him to become a ruler of Golconda? That was translated during Ghulam Yazdani's time. By knowing this, we know what was the importance of that rock edict and how it's all a part of the growing, like Ibrahim didn't come to the throne at a vacuum. He was asked to come to the throne by the people of the region, and that is carved in this thing. And there is a language which is there on the stone, which is a very ordinary language. the language of washermen and people who are shepherds. The language is very crass, but it is still there, and we can read it. We can read it only because it has been preserved. And even if you go to the Thousand Pillar Temple, the edict which is there on that side is still preserved. This is a vast difference from an earlier period when every bit of architecture was destroyed or defaced or carted away and destroyed completely. And if you see the contrast, in 1672 the archaeology department was set up in Bombay. We got an archaeology department in 1914. So there is a huge gap of learning and trying to preserve. And the third step I would see is how the Asaf Jahi actually spent money to preserve this thing. We actually can understand how much money they spent because the Qutub Shahi tombs, Salahuddin built a wall around it. He built a wall around it. And there were no gardens. He restored some form of garden in that place. We have to understand what state the Qutub Shahi tombs were because the Aurangzeb's army was stationed there for a period of time when they were carrying out the bombardment of the Golconda fort. So when in 1917, when the Archaeology Department of India excavated the site, they found layers of ash at the site. The layers of ash were there because there was a huge amount of destruction in that place. And Salahuddin built a wall around it, and he even helped turn the deep stepwell into an arcaded gallery where people can walk. All this is money. We have to think all this in terms of money. Even now, for example, when we talk about preserving the Paiga tomb, we want the American consulate to help us. We are not able to do it on our own. Our country is not doing it on our own. We are getting somebody else's money. And Salahuddin also got small signs installed in the Qutub Shahi tombs which said, staying here in the night is prohibited. We have to understand that people would go there to stay there. It means the distance is far. Suppose you are traveling from the old city to Qutub Shahi tombs, it takes some time to reach there. And you can't come back immediately. So you stay back. So people would stay back. So Salahuddin stopped that from people staying there. So this is one of the ways he helped people understand the importance of the heritage. And even the garden in Naya Killa was preserved by the earlier Nizams. Now we have given it off to a golf course. The ASA has signed an agreement, now it's part of a golf course. So it's a lot more than anybody else. So finally I would end with this one image of the Qutub Shahi this thing. Like the Qutub Shahis initially started building the wall around Hyderabad. The wall was completed during Mubarak Khan's time. Mubarak Khan was killed in 1924. But the real defacement and destruction of this walls and the bastions happened in 1950s after India got independence. And it was Mr. Harun Khan Sherwani who got onto one of the bastions to say, please don't destroy this. We have got two bastions now, the Virpur Darwaza and the Purana Killa Darwaza, Naya Killa Darwaza, Naya Pul Darwaza. All the other darwazas are gone, all the walls are gone. The Champa Darwaza, from which the 1857 revolt took place, where Turebas Khan marched his soldiers out into the residency, we don't know where it is. It is behind the High Court. But and now the pace has accelerated. The pace of destruction of Qutub Shahi heritage has accelerated very rapidly. We only know the tombs have been preserved and the fort has been preserved. Inner fort has been preserved. But the outer fortification, all the areas is run over with encroachments. The city doesn't look like the way it was. The Nizam built Naumal Palace inside the Golconda Fort. Now if you ask anybody where is the Naumal Palace, we don't know. The Nizam Ali Khan built it, but we don't know where it exists. The whole place has been razed. In 1970s, when the German photographer Hans Winterberg photographed that place, there is a match factory inside the normal palace. Now we don't know where it is. Thank you. I think I'm done with it.